episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why not drop us a line? Address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. And when you get in on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standard. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Also, you can follow us on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Also, you can follow the video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Again, thank you all very much. Tonight, as advertised, we're going to have a discussion because there is an impasse. Some folks don't want the ordinary folks to talk about it, but I don't agree. There is an impasse with the unity administration that currently governs St. Kitts and Nevis. We have heard from the leaders of the three political parties that comprise that organization. The Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, who is the Prime Minister and the leader of the People's Labour Party. Deputy Prime Minister is Sean Richards, who is the leader of the People's Action Party. Premier Mark Brantley is the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement. They have met over a couple of days, a couple of times. They've been going back and forth. They have reported to us. And they are at this juncture at no point where they can tell us, the population, the way forward. Premier Brantley, in his statement, being the last to put a statement out, has said that himself and Mr. Richards have written to the Prime Minister, giving him until the 20th, Wednesday 20th of April, to determine or to say to them whether or not he will accept the proposals or the suggestion that they have made, or else, my words. So, in their own words, we'll hear from them first. And then, as advertised, we're asking you, what is your view of the situation, and do you have a suggestion for the leaders and for your fellow men, countrymen, the way you think this thing should be settled or handled? If you're going to do that, you call in on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Please be respectful and take a little time, because we want to accommodate almost everybody tonight. And that's why I said you can organize yourselves ahead of time. So when you get in, you're forceful, you're to the point, and then we hear from somebody else. Also, there are certain sections of the Constitution which deals with this sort of problem. We'll point it out to you, and we will have a look. I have some help with me tonight, but we'll get to that. Well, let me get to them first. Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and more particularly the people of Nevis. Those who will be listening to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. Also, those who are viewing on Facebook, YouTube, as the case might be, Webbo, good evening.
Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a pleasant good evening to your staff here at Vaughan Radio and to everyone who is tuning in to this program this evening by the various means. Webbo, a good night to discuss these very serious issues. One can describe the political climate as turbulent. And of course, I'm so happy to be here once again, Webbo.
By the way, those of you who do not know these two gentlemen, they have been in the political arena as well. So they know how it is to be inside, but not on the government benches, right? So they got an idea of politics works. Okay, so just in case you don't know of them and their reputation, that's part of what they do. They understand politics to a great degree. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear from the Prime Minister Harris, followed by Deputy Prime Minister Richards, followed by Premier Brantley, so that you can hear for yourself what each one said in reference to the situation at hand.
My fellow citizens and residents, today the leaders of the parties comprising the tripartite Team Unity movement met at the Cabinet Room, Government Headquarters, to continue the discussion regarding the way forward for the Team Unity administration. Today's meeting was a follow-up to that held last Wednesday, in which my colleagues put forward some areas of concern for my consideration. Given the nature of the concerns presented, it was agreed that we would meet today, at which time I would present my views on the matters raised. The meeting was cordial, as was the one held last week. At today's meeting, I propose a framework to address the issues raised. This framework included the introduction of a code of conduct for the better functioning of the Cabinet. I further propose that all ministries should be subject to greater accountability to the Cabinet through regular reporting so that members may be better apprised of the workings of the entire government. In response to demands that portfolios be reassigned, I committed to undertake a review of the makeup of the Cabinet in due course with a view to improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the government as a whole. I made it clear that I could not allow the constitutional prerogative of the office of the Prime Minister to be diminished. I informed colleagues that further progress has been made with the World Bank giving its consent to undertake a study to advise on equitable revenue sharing arrangements between the federal government and the Nevis Island administration. In the interim, the budgetary support to our sister island of Nevis has been increased as per the request of the Honorable Premier. I recognize that the political events over the last several weeks have created considerable and undue anxiety, discomfort, and uncertainty for you, the beloved people of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is for this reason that I remain fully committed to the process that would bring this unfortunate situation to an end. I believe at this time our country must have a cabinet that is fully committed to addressing the pressing issues that confront our people, such as job creation, the cost of living, caring for our elderly and the poor, providing housing, maintaining the peace and security within our nation, and ensuring our socio-economic recovery from the pandemic. In so doing, we would be providing hope and opportunities to our people for a better tomorrow. While every issue of concern to members cannot be addressed and resolved at this moment, I remain open to further discussions. In closing, it is my fervent wish that we will all use this Easter weekend as a time of reflection, prayer, and contemplation on the sacrifice made by Jesus Christ for mankind. Let us continue to take our country to God in prayer and seek His divine protection over our nation. May God continue to bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I thank you.
That was Prime Minister Harris, now Deputy Prime Minister Richards.
Fellow citizens, good day. I come to you today to provide a short update on today's meeting between the political leaders of the three parties that form the coalition known as Team Unity. We met today, Thursday, 14th April 2022, at the Cabinet Room, Government Headquarters, Bastille. Now that the meeting has concluded, I wish to update you on the status of the talks, our relationship, and the way forward. As you may recall, Dr. Timothy Harris as leader of the People's Labour Party, Matt Brantley as leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and I as leader of the People's Action Movement also met here in Bastille last week on Wednesday, 6 April 2022. At that first meeting, we agreed that our discussions would resume but would be concluded today, Thursday, 14th April. When we met at the first meeting, PAM and CCM made their positions clear on several issues, and we thought that it was both fair and reasonable to give some time to the Prime Minister to consider the matters and to report back to us today. However, while there was some minor progress on a few issues, it was not what the country needed for an urgent resolution. Unfortunately, the gulf between what is required to save the partnership and the preferences of the Prime Minister remain large and troubling. Both the leaders of PAM and CCM presented reasonable proposals that we felt would have adequately addressed important issues of national interest, such as good governance, transparency, and accountability, but it turned out to be a bridge too wide for the Prime Minister to cross. Sadly, this second time around, we still could not see eye to eye on the decisive steps that are needed to ensure that repairs are undertaken to address the broken down trust. The PAM has continued to be reasonable and patient. PAM has done this because it understands that it must do all that is possible to maintain stability and continuity in our beloved country. The PAM has also been patient and reasonable because it also wanted to be fair to the leader of PLP and the Prime Minister. However, I have to report that there is no meaningful platform on which we can build within the present system, and with original promises of good governance broken, our faith and trust continue to be diminished. We continue to search, even as we speak, for the true prospects of real unity. I have decided, as leader of PAM, to meet immediately with my caucus in emergency session. I will duly report to them in detail about what transpired today and seek their input on all the issues. Thereafter, we will decide on the way forward. At the end of our consultations, PAM will provide the nation with a comprehensive statement that would be definitive on the way forward for us. This will come in the short term. As I close, I wish to assure my fellow citizens that the People's Action Movement is firmly committed to do what is right, not in the best interest of a few or ourselves, but in the best interest of all citizens. This is Holy Week and the commemoration of Easter. Easter represents rebirth and new beginnings, and it also represents hope. But we also recognize that it represents sacrifices. Let's pray for each other, and let's ask the Lord to give all of us wisdom. Just as the glorious resurrection followed the crucifixion, we remain hopeful. Thank you, and God's richest blessings this Easter weekend.
That was Deputy Prime Minister Richards, and now Mayor Brantley.
Brothers and sisters, I greet you at the most holy time of year, and a time when we all should be focused on the unmerited grace shown towards us by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who made the ultimate sacrifice, giving his life so that we can have a chance at redemption. Regrettably, even as we thank God for his abundant mercies, there are matters here in our federation which threaten to tear the fabric of our young nation apart. The history of our Team Unity government is well known. PAM, CCM and PLP came together under an umbrella of Team Unity, offering a better way for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We were able then, in the harsh winter of political opposition, to put aside our differences, to compromise, and to fashion a framework for engagement amongst each other and for our people, which remains the greatest political idea in the post-independence history of our country. Team Unity was designed to emphasize the team and the oneness of purpose. It was designed to bring the people of St. Kitts and Nevis together and to end the decades-old tribalism and parochialism in our country. But to achieve any of these lofty objectives, there was, is, and will always be the need for leadership that is humble, visionary, and inclusive. I remind us all that there is no I in team and no me in unity. We were embraced by our people in 2015 and again in 2020 and catapulted from the harsh winter of opposition into the welcome spring of government. Alas, I regret to say that along the way we have lost our way. After years of efforts internally to resolve issues, the lack of commitment to finding resolution has now created a public spectacle of which none of us can be proud. Brothers and sisters, a timeline of recent events might prove useful. The PAM had its annual convention on Sunday, March 13th, 2022, at which I spoke. The PLP had its annual convention on Saturday, 26 March 2022. Both conventions made it clear that all was not well. Indeed, it was obvious to all that since the conventions of those two political parties in 2021, there were signs of acute difficulties within the Team Unity construct. And yet, brothers and sisters, the Prime Minister and leader of Team Unity made no attempt to get the PLP, PAM, and CCM together to resolve issues. Concerns about keeping our promises to each other and to our people, concerns about undermining colleagues, concerns about allowing PLP operatives to openly and brazenly attack sitting members of the cabinet, concerns about the absence of transparency within the cabinet, concerns about the concentration of all of the levers of power exclusive in the hands of the Prime Minister. All were raised, and yet no effort was made to resolve. Against this backdrop, the Honorable Sean Richards as leader of PAM and I as leader of CCM, who together have 7 of the 9 seats in the Unity Coalition, jointly wrote to the Prime Minister on Monday, 28 March 2022, seeking an urgent meeting. We both realized that if Team Unity was to be saved, then PAM and CCM had to initiate that dialogue to save it. Notwithstanding the urgency and gravity of the situation, the Prime Minister did not make himself available for a meeting until 9 days later. We finally met in Bastia on Wednesday, 6th April 2022. At that meeting, the parties agreed that we would speak freely and that we would not disclose the content of our discussions until some resolution was achieved. Both the leader of PAM and I set out in extensive detail the serious concerns that we had with the manner in which the Prime Minister was managing Team Unity as leader. We went on to indicate to him our recommendations for ameliorating the position and allowing us to move forward with greater comfort and assurance that the concerns would not only be addressed, but would not be allowed to reoccur. Out of respect for the Prime Minister and the office that he holds, Both the Honorable Richards and I agreed that he would need some time to reflect, and a second meeting was convened for Holy Thursday, 14th April 2022. Naturally, we expected that, having set out the issues of concern and the recommendations for resolution of those issues, that the Honorable Prime Minister would have come to the meeting on Holy Thursday with his response to the clear recommendations made, having had 8 days to reflect and to consider. This, however, proved not to be the case, and instead the Prime Minister failed and or refused to address decisively any of the issues raised, choosing instead to suggest that we develop a framework for further discussions, a code of conduct for Cabinet, and inviting the World Bank to study the issue of a pro rata share of CBI proceeds for Nevis. Given the obvious preparations on the ground by the PLP for a possible election, I have come to the inescapable conclusion that the Honorable Prime Minister is not concerned about saving Team Unity, but is merely playing for time, hoping to maintain the status quo for as long as possible, while the serious concerns about the current path of Team Unity are ignored. If I can take but one example to prove my point, it boggles the mind why the Honorable Prime Minister, a trained accountant and highly astute financial manager, would continue peddling the notion that we need the World Bank to come in to do a study and to tell us how to calculate the monies received from CBI, subtract the expenses of the program, and divide the balance on a pro rata population basis between Bastia and Charlestown, as was agreed as a central plank of the Team Unity construct. I am certain when I say that any student at the Nevis Sixth Form College or CFBC could undertake that mathematical exercise and bring immediate resolution to a matter which has now festered for 7 long years. My brothers and sisters, let me be clear. One hand cannot clap, and PAM and CCM cannot by themselves save Team Unity as currently configured if the PLP and its leadership has no interest in resolving the issues that confront us. To this end, and consistent with our ongoing efforts to save our Team Unity government, the Honourable Sean Richards and I have delivered a written communication to the Honourable Prime Minister, setting out our position for a path forward. We have taken the unprecedented step of putting a deadline of Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 for a response from the Prime Minister, barring which we can only conclude that he and his team have no interest or desire to save this Team Unity government. We shall therefore know by Wednesday whether we can achieve resolution or whether we face dissolution. I have heard the address of the Honourable Prime Minister, wherein he intimated that the office of the Prime Minister should not be diminished. I agree, but will add that the principles of Team Unity, which allowed him the privilege of being our Prime Minister, should also not be diminished. We cannot and must not use the ladder of Team Unity to get to the top and then kick it down as being a mere construct for personal advancement and self-aggrandizement. Brothers and sisters, I and my beloved CCM remain fully committed to Team Unity and the ideals which we espoused and which captured the imagination of our people. We believe that unity must not only be a word to be oft repeated in speeches, but an ideal that should be demonstrated in action. We are committed to living in peace and promoting socio-political harmony among our two islands and among our people. But let there be no doubt that if others within the Team Unity construct are unwilling or unable to compromise in the interest of our nation's stability, then the CCM and the people of Nevis shall not waver. We shall not bow. We shall never, ever surrender. We live by our motto that people matter most, and we shall never resile from standing up for the people who have entrusted to us their trust and confidence to represent them. As I end, I invite your prayers in this most holy of times. Easter is about sacrifice, but it is also about rebirth and renewal. Easter is a story of sadness, but also a story of triumph. Most of all, Easter is a story of Almighty God keeping His promise to us all. May we seek to be Christ-like and keep our promises to each other and to our people. I wish you all a blessed Easter and pray that our churches may be full and overflowing today, tomorrow, and in the difficult days and weeks ahead. Thank you, and may God bless and keep you.
And so that was Premier Brantley. You first heard Prime Minister Harris and Deputy Prime Minister Richards. Now, I'm going to get comment from Edric Stanley and Conrad Nyer-Liburd, and then we'll get comments from you, the public. But before that, I wanted to say that as I listened to not only the three leaders, and as I listened to the special sitting of Parliament today, which was held in honor of the late Premier Vance Amory, I jotted down a note because I have a way I like to say, every now and then I like to think. And I was thinking as I was listening that ceremony today, I wrote this: I don't understand where this venom and acrimony amongst our people come from. Because when one listens to the political leaders, example today, and at certain other times, one doesn't get the impression it comes from the leaders who you hear. And certainly, as they describe their relationships with the opponents. So I keep wondering, and I wonder if somebody can help me, in the name, under the umbrella of politics, where does this enmity, this acrimony, and this viral thing comes from? Edric W. Stanley.
Let me read just one section of the Constitution. The executive authority of St. Christopher and Nevis is vested in Her Majesty. As Section 1. Section 2. Subject to the provisions of the Constitution, the executive authority of St. Christopher and Nevis may be exercised on behalf of Her Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through officers subordinate to him. Nothing in this section shall prevent the legislature from conferring function on persons or authorities other than the Governor General. In this section, references to the executive authority of St. Christopher and Nevis include references to the executive authority of the island of Nevis with respect to the specified matters. I'll stop there. Based on
before you go on, what section you were reading?
Chapter 5, the executive.
Section 51.1.
Okay, section 51.1.
Section 51.1. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Well, I stopped there.
Oh, you stopped there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just to bring some perspective to who has the authority based on the line of succession? The Governor General, obviously, given his authority by Her Majesty, has the authority to determine who will be at the top of the ladder that the Honorable Mark Brantley stated that upon ascending to the top, seemingly the ladder has been kicked down. Well, in this regard, the Governor General sees fit among the people who are elected as they organize and bring a draft to the Governor General. The Governor General appoints simply based on the organization of the number of persons who are supposed to ascend to the top of the pyramid. Now, I think, based on what I recognize, there is a power struggle, seemingly, is brewing with reference to the 2 terms that had been agreed to in the team unity construct. And in that regard, there is no bickering simply because the Prime Minister is in his 2nd term, and as a result, he has not indicated as to what's going to happen for the first term, for the 3rd term and beyond. There's no guarantee that there is a 3rd term for anybody. At the same time, we must bring into sharp focus what we know and what we assume to know. Based on what I heard today, haven't had an opportunity to verify it, but there has been mistrust, supposedly, from the outset upon victory at the polls and the team unity construct.
Okay, so see what is happening, Mr. Stanley. I promised folks that they will get to weigh in. We heard from the 3 leaders what their varied positions are. And against what they have reported, what is your conclusion and position? And then we'll go to Naya so we can, get moving.
Well, I think that the matter should have been held privately, negotiate privately, even though...
So you don't believe them when they say they were trying to get it done privately?
I agree. I believe them. But
it still should have done privately.
Continue.
Work with me, whether or not they get any results.
Results would have come.
Even if it takes another 10 years?
No, it wouldn't take another 10 years.
So
give the Prime Minister an ultimatum.
How much time? But that's what they're doing.
Look, I understand that.
So you agree with them? Okay. Naya.
Webbo, what I've come to the public, it sounds like 2 people, Mr. Mark Brantley and Sean Richard, seems to be proposing something which the Prime Minister seems to be dodging for a long time. I mean, in the past I've heard Mark say that he's been trying since 2015, and he's been just getting a lot of runaround. What the Prime Minister have come to the people with is a new set of runaround. Maybe it's not new to Mark, but or Sean, but it's new to the public, that he's giving a run around. Listening in the three leaders, it looked as if the meeting wasn't amongst them. Two of them had a meeting, but one is saying something else. Interestingly, the Prime Minister speaks to a code of conduct, accountability to cabinet, and the World Bank. I'm not sure anything about the World Bank is written in our constitution as it relates to Nevis and its share. So that is a new development, and not just a new development, is one that entails time, you know, and I think the Prime Minister is begging for time. I think he's been neglecting these fundamental issues for a long time, and he is continuing to do so, and that's why he's been now faced with a deadline, which is tomorrow. Actually, the last time they met, that had supposed to be the conclusion of these meetings, and hopefully a solution arrives at. But what he has brought to the public and what Mark Brantley have said and Sean have said, that nothing have really come of these two meetings. In fact, Sean have said that they are drifting apart, or words to that effect. And there's a deadline, and by tomorrow we'll know what's going on. Webbo.
Right. Now, our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. If you would like to weigh in, as I said, we're encouraging you to take, as little time as possible so we can get as many of your views as we can. And we ask you to be respectful, but be forceful with your points. In the meantime, I also noted that in Mr. Brantley's before that, I noted that Mr. Stanley said there is an issue with the 2 terms, and seemingly it is not, clear as to whether or not the Prime Minister is going for a 3rd term. I don't know whether or not I gleaned that from the discussions, because as far as I know, Team Unity has not been elected yet for a 3rd term. And one of them can only become the Prime Minister when they're elected. In terms of the public statements that have been made, the Prime Minister has said that he has never said anything to the contrary. And I noted that the Premier nor Deputy Richards really elaborated on that particular issue. So I don't know. Secondly, Mr. Brantley had mentioned, by the way, that it was a letter that was written, and I don't get the impression that there is another meeting tomorrow. I get the impression that they're looking for an answer to that particular letter, which has in whatever proposals. And Mr. Stanley had made reference to the Constitution, Section 51. Now, Mr. Brantley pointed out that all the while the Prime Minister seems to be getting ready for an election. There's a lot of talk around that a federal election is looming. That also is interesting, because I wonder also where that comes from. Because in that same section of the Constitution, Section 51, which Mr. Stanley referred to, it speaks to how a Prime Minister is appointed or installed, and the different methods or ways in which a Prime Minister can be removed. So maybe a little later on we can get into that, because there are a number of ways that the Constitution speaks to, other than if the current leaders agree or disagree rather and can move forward, the only solution left is to have fresh elections. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, it is important for us to bring from the public domain information that we are knowledgeable of, specifically the authority and the power that comes from that authority. And I think that is where the big rub is And I'm not going to stay and sugarcoat it. I recognize that power is sweet and it is difficult for people to just give up power. Now, based on how we understand the voters operate, Prime Minister Harris's seat is seemingly safe. Sean Richards' seat is seemingly safe because it goes back to, can't think of the parliamentarian who had it. Mark Brantley's seat is seemingly safe. So where we are now, based on the power that be, the top of the pyramid, that's where the rub comes, in my view. The execution of the authority of the Prime Minister must not be diminished. But at the same time, we understand that if you had in the arrangement 2 terms and the agreement is supposed to be somebody else's turn, it's only right and proper, fair also, for some indication to come from the current holder of that authority and position to indicate to the other 2 as to what his position is currently. And as there are 3 elected leaders, what could be expected before they start campaigning for?
Yeah, but that is on the record already. That's what I'm saying. The Prime Minister is on the record as saying that
he's committed.
Yes. So I don't get your point. That's on the record. Until you prove that he says otherwise, so we have to leave that and deal with the other issues, no?
No.
Okay.
We can assume that the Prime Minister already seen.
Just for argument, just to keep talking?
No.
But so why you
make it short?
So okay, go ahead, because I don't. Now you get it.
Well, listen. I have concluded, in my view. Well, maybe I shouldn't say it.
Okay, if you shouldn't say it, don't say it. Now you get it, the point he's trying to make?
No, because none of the speakers, none of the leaders have given any indication about that particular issue. But there comes a time it's gonna bubble to the surface because it's about time. Some may say that there's a federal election looming. That is quite possible. A possible vote of no confidence is also quite possible. But importantly, Webbo, I would like to read section 52(2) of the Constitution. And it speaks towards when the Governor General can decide who will be the Prime Minister. He say, whenever the Governor General has occasion to appoint a Prime Minister, he shall appoint a representative who appears to him likely to command the support of the majority of the representatives.
Oh.
Let me say that again. Whenever the Governor General has occasion to appoint a Prime Minister, he shall appoint a representative who appears to him likely to command the support of the majority of the representatives.
That is what I didn't want to mention. At the same time, thank you, Maya.
You didn't want to mention it.
I think that's quite fundamental there, you know.
Okay, let me get this. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert.
Yes.
And I'm calling out of Asia, God to blame. I don't live in St. Kitts Nevis. I'm a citizen of St. Kitts Nevis. I've listened to as much as possible the developments and all that is happening. And in my view, if what the Deputy Prime Minister is saying and what Mr. Brantley is saying are facts, and hear about the Prime Minister and what have you, I get the impression that he seems to be buying time for time. I also feel, and this is my conviction, that the Unity Party, the Unity construct was the best thing that could have happened at that time under the given circumstances of the political atmosphere in St. Kitts. I think it was the best thing, and as a division, I keep saying, I follow St. Kitts Nevis politics since 1966. And I keep saying that unity is the best thing ever happened to Nevis. But I also feel that as individuals, big thinking men, people, that something needs to come forth in a proper way. I don't think that it had to reach to this. And if they've been talking, sending out letters, getting information, and nothing is happening, seemingly they had to do something. It's unfortunate that it has to go that way. But my view is, with all due respect for the Prime Minister, I get the impression that he's buying time. And the only thing is, in our Constitution, the Prime Minister is the one who has the trump card in calling elections. And I feel strongly that is what is happening. I'll continue to listen, but also I can't lend with Mr. Stanley. I can't catch him what he's saying either. Thank you very much for hearing.
Buying time for what?
Okay, I'm going to still keep working on him, because if anybody can get him to come around, it's me. Yes. Somebody wanted to...
The caller was saying...
Could you come closer to the microphone?
The caller was repeating buying time, and what is the Prime Minister buying time for?
Okay. Hello, good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening.
Webbo, good night.
Good evening.
Good evening. First time talking to you, first time on your program, but not the first time on Vaughan Radio. Mr. Stanley and the other panelists, good night.
Nice, sir.
Good night.
Yeah. Well, let me give me an oversight. Make out for one shot.
Yeah, listen, well, you said the first time on this program, so see what we do. Once you get on the air, you go ahead and you make your point. We would listen. And once we got you, and if we got a question or comment, then we so go right ahead.
Okay. Yes. Well, we listen to everything. Not everything. We switch from program to program. And the truth about it, as me aware with the whole stuff now, God works in mysterious ways, and wonders to perform. Right now, are the best and the golden opportunity for Premier Brantley to bring home the fair share for Nevis. I mean, if it's call a motion of no confidence, you got the numbers, and let we see who not the rest support the other two leaders, the Premier and the Deputy Leader, because both of them are called for the fair share for Nevis. So you got the numbers. We have motion of no confidence. If you don't want to go down the route there, we can give Dr. Timothy Harris one good advice. Resign your position, because the odds against you right now. Resign your position. give the government to Sean and Brantley, the deputy, and let we see them work for the next 3 years. No time for call for no resolve a fresh election. August, man, take over the government and show your work.
Okay.
And you got the golden opportunity to bring home the fair share for Nevis. And not even the fair share, you know, since Nevis get knocked out for so much years, more than the fair share. More than the fair share, not just the fair share. So, Mr. Brantley, please, don't call for no fresh election. Call a motion with no confidence. And I don't think that Dr. Timothy Harris will go down the route or Dr. Douglas. I don't really believe so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks
Any
much.
question?
No, not at the minute.
You clear?
You're clear.
Okay. No problem, Webbo.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Right.
Is he on the ground, the caller, is he on the ground in Nevis? You have to be able to have the numbers to call a motion of no confidence and to bring down the government. If you don't have the numbers, for whatever reason, you will fail. The motion of no confidence will fail. And what you are trying to achieve will not be accomplished. And thus strengthens the hand of Prime Minister.
Let me go to the phones, Mr. Stanley. When we come back, we're going to ask you what would you do. Hello, good evening.
Webbo, we're back. Let me correct something that Mr. Stanley. Mr. Stanley, you got 3 from Nevis. You got the deputy and the other 2 from Nevis. How much the PAM got? You only just got two in there for the PLP. You don't got the numbers already.
That's what you think.
Well, remember me say early up, call a motion of no confidence, and here we see who else. Remember me say that early up. You forgot that? You said that early up.
Yeah. Okay, caller, we got you.
Okay, good.
Okay. Mr. Stanley, so what would you do? What would you recommend?
I would recommend that they continue, hold another meeting and force the Prime Minister to accept the fact that 2 terms are yours based on the agreement, and let's determine who we think in the next election, by their winning their seats, the Governor General would have, in his opinion, one of the members, one of those 3, who can command the majority in Parliament.
Okay, so let me see if I can translate what you said. You will continue until the next 3.5 years, whatever time. Huh?
No, not 3.5 years.
But whatever time is left, because I don't think that 2 years has elapsed as yet, and the term is 5 years at least. So what you mean, my arithmetic is wrong?
No, your arithmetic is correct. What I'm trying to say, we know, based on the authority and the power and whatever it is, it takes time for it to be recognized, and maybe in 3 weeks, hence,
I promised the earlier caller that I will get to you, but believe you me, you're disconnecting me. You're saying, so let me try again. You're saying they should continue as is until the Prime Minister finishes this term.
No,
And he, okay.
no. I said 3 weeks.
Oh, so you should continue for 3 more weeks.
Yes.
And then what?
The pressure, you ratchet up the pressure. You ratchet up the pressure on him until, because there is no
Walk with me.
there's no room in there for the World Bank.
There. So you will give him 3 more weeks, and then after that, if nothing changes, then what?
Then we make a determination as to
Or what determination would you make?
the decision to break up.
I'll give you some more time. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
Good evening to your two panelists, Mr. Stanley and Mr. Liebert. Mr. Stanley, I've been sitting here listening to you, and I really believe that you're lost. You should really just sit down, listen, and see if you could get it, because the caller told you they have the numbers. What do you mean you don't have the numbers? With 7 seats out of 9, to me, that suggests that, I mean, the gentlemen that have 7 seats have the upper hand. Right now, we have you are saying surrender to a guy who have 2 seats. I really don't understand what happened to this Prime Minister. He is exhibiting selfish emotions, and he cares nothing about the country. He must have his way, or let it mash up. He forget that he is in a coalition with partners who have more representatives and more seats than him. This is supposed to be a coalition where they sit and discuss. He wants to be way overhead, maximum leader. No, that is not what we the people understood when we got into it. Very disappointed with him.
Caller, might I ask you a question?
Sure, sir.
Having played and having, I gather you listen to all sides, etc., etc., and we're at this stage now, what would you suggest be done?
Mr. Herbert, what's going on right now, I agree with. We have until tomorrow. There have been discussions, and as far as I see, after the PAM convention, it's been ratcheting up, and I advise them to keep ratcheting up the pressure until something gives. Some people don't understand what it is to be fair, and I think they should continue ratcheting up the pressure and until somebody realize what time of day it is.
Okay.
Don't go. Are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Stanley.
Caller, what I'm trying to imply is that you do not know the power of the current Prime Minister, who...
Mr. Stanley, the current Prime Minister can't have no power if he only got 2 seats. He is in a coalition with partners, and he keep throwing him under the bus, and they got more seats than him.
I wonder if you can read the tea leaves.
Pardon?
I wonder if you can read the tea leaves.
Read the what?
The tea leaves, meaning it is very likely that the Prime Minister has in cabinet 2 more seats.
Mr. Stanley, I like to listen and wait and see what's going on, and I suggest you do the same.
Okay, caller.
I'll be guided by your advice. Tomorrow is a deadline. Wait and see what
I'll be guided by your advice, caller.
Okay, caller.
But just take what I just told you.
Okay. All right, caller.
No, Mr. Herbert, I think I wanted to let Mr. Stalin. I think he's lost.
No, caller.
Hello.
That's my thought.
Okay. So you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Somebody suggesting that
Naya, go ahead.
they ratchet up the pressure more. Tomorrow is the deadline. I think it's an appropriate time to be asking for a solution and to actually give the public something of certainty. I think the whole issue is lingering. Too much is going, because what we're hearing now in the public, only a part of it, really. This has been going on, seems to be a long time. It's obviously with that outburst, I call it an outburst, at the Palms Convention. I think that started to bring the issue more into the public domain. And when Mark Brantley went on and bring these serious figures to the fore, it moves Nivision in a very serious way. And of course, we are asking for immediate conclusion. So yes, we agree with the tomorrow deadline, and a vote of no confidence can be quite an effective way going forward. I don't know what is up the sleeve of Mark Brantley and Sean, but that is an effective way going forward. If the Prime Minister, as the caller said, I think the caller made some serious point. If the Prime Minister is committed towards team unity, and he of course been writing a lot about the advantages of the unity and all, he can simply give the government to Sean, and maybe Nevis will be better off, or seems better off for a while, because it seems as if Sean is on our side, and it's painful. I mean, looking at these matters through this spectacle, because it's always going to be a maybe. It's an interesting time. But I also, at this point, want to remind Nevisians that unity applied to Nevis people too,
Okay, Naya, let me just get this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, Webbo, good evening. Good evening. I just want to weigh in. I feel to myself that the Prime Minister don't have no respect for the people of Nevis. And what I also propose in, just like Monica proposed, that he just turned over the government to Sean, which was at this time, and let him run it along with Mark Brantley and the other cabinet colleagues. He can be in the mix as well, but the leadership position should not be given to the Prime Minister. It should not be given to Timothy Harris again, because to me, he don't have no respect for the people of Nevis.
Okay.
Caller, let me remind you.
Thank you.
If you're still there,
Caller is left.
okay. Let me just make this as a public statement. Politics makes strange bedfellows, and I am on the ground, and what I'm hearing, the thing in terms of turning over the leadership to Sean is not in the cards of the current Prime Minister.
Well, if that is a point, is not so, how would you respond, Mr. Stanley, then, to Section 52? I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me take this first. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, Webbo. How are you doing, man?
Good.
The matter at hand being discussed here, man, is very interesting. From I'm a Nevision, and from what I see, man, at the end of the day, Nevis don't have to decide what he wants for itself. In the meantime, Mark Brantley is the best thing that come out of Nevis. It's refreshing to hear a politician out of Nevis taking on the establishment and thinking like that. No other politician, at least in my lifetime, I haven't seen anything like that. Brantley is a breath of fresh air for Nevis. I don't care what nobody tell me. I tell people, look, you can disagree with him over many issues, but at the end of the day, the man is a brown-bread Nevision, and he's demonstrating that all the way. People need to get with the program. No politician thinks he's going to really acquiesce and turn over nothing to nobody in Nevis. None, neither Palm, Labour, nobody. But in the meantime, Mark Brantley is the best thing we have. All right?
Okay. Caller? Okay, the caller is gone. Yes, our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Like make a comment, please call. You can call now. Mr. Stanley, I was asking you that, and somebody also had mentioned that nobody's going to turn anything over. But one of the callers suggested that they have a coalition of 9 members. And one person is suggesting that in the divide right now, there seem to be 2 sides. One which arguably is made up of 7, and I said arguably because you don't know. You made a statement, politics make strange bedfellows.
Yeah.
So I said arguably only because PAM has 4 seats led by the leader Sean Richard, and CCM has 3 seats led by Mark Brantley. So theoretically by that, so I'm just giving what the facts are. And so the caller seems to be suggesting that all needs to be done then, if you have a coalition of 9, and you have in that divide, one side has 7 and one side has 2, then the side that has 7 has the majority. I think that is the point the caller was trying to make. If you add to that the factors, how did a prime minister come into being? In other words, how was a person appointed prime minister? And the section in the Constitution, I think 52 1 says there shall be a prime minister of St. Christopher and Nevis who shall be appointed by the Governor General. How does that happen? When the Governor General has an occasion to appoint a prime minister, he shall appoint a representative who appears to him likely to command the support of the majority of the representatives. And that's how, under the Constitution, Dr. Harris was appointed as Prime Minister. So, did the Constitution deal with or address the current situation? What happens if a problem develops? Somebody mentioned earlier that you can have a motion of no confidence. Well, subsection 6, 52(6) of the Constitution says, the Governor General shall remove the Prime Minister from office if a resolution of no confidence in the government is passed by the National Assembly, and the Prime Minister does not, within 3 days, either resign from his office or advise the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. Now, that's one way, and I think that is what the caller earlier had referred to. However, there's another section which speaks to the removal of the Prime Minister under different circumstances. Subsection 7 of Section 52 says, if at any time between the holding of a general election of representatives and the first meeting of the National Assembly thereafter, the Governor General considers that in consequence of changes in the membership of the Assembly resulting from the election that the Prime Minister will not be able to command the support of the majority of the representative, the Governor General may remove the Prime Minister from office. Now, that's another way. If you realize the last part of it says, the Governor General may remove the Prime Minister from office. What you have to do then is debate what came before. The question is, the caller also said that maybe the Prime Minister current Prime Minister as an option, he can resign. And then of that 9 members, one of them can be the Prime Minister, etc., etc., and the current Prime Minister still remain as part of Team Unity without holding fresh elections.
Well, this is the moral high ground that the Honorable Sean Richards and the Honorable Mark Brantley are attempting to arrive at. But the current Prime Minister is not there yet.
It's not there.
That moral high ground. And I'm saying give him 3 weeks to get to that higher moral, that moral high ground.
Okay, so I think I got you now then. You see, I kind of dense, but I'll come around. So you're saying that what you would recommend is to Mr. Richards and Mr. Brantley to give the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, 3 more weeks so that he can do what?
Get to that higher
put that in plain language for me, because when I talk to people, they say, Webbo, talk plain. So that the Prime Minister can do what?
They mentioned in the commentary presentations about transparency. That is the catchword.
Now let's go back to the ground that you were on before.
The moral high ground.
No, you said that they must give the Prime Minister 3 weeks in order for him to do what?
To arrive at that the moral high ground.
Okay, so use some other words to describe the moral high ground.
Transparency.
Resign.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. Stanley Waste, the Prime Minister 3 more weeks to do more damage or to buy more time?
Give him more time.
To buy more time so he can do more damage in this.
Look, if there is damage,
yeah,
quantify the damage. I'm saying to you, based on
he's doing. He have lose the trust of his cabinet. So why don't give him 2 more weeks for so he do more damage?
He has lost what?
To me, I don't think the Prime Minister deserve the next day.
But what I'm attempting to say in this regard is give him enough time for him to understand the dilemma that he has brought about, because he doesn't want to get to that moral high ground. He has brought in his proposal the
Mr. Stanley, I'll give you a little time to
stripping of his authority.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hello, good evening.
Caller, I want you to work with me. I want you to listen to the telephone. Turn your listening device down and listen to the telephone, else we're going to have a little issue.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
How you doing?
Good.
However, I wanted to know what will become of St. and Nevis in the future. However, the Nevis Christian Council, I haven't heard nothing from them, neither the Christian Council, nor the Evangelist Association, the St. Kitts Christian Council, nor the Evangelist Association of St. Kitts. I would like to know what the Chamber of Industry and Commerce are doing, because if these things happen, they're going to be in a serious consequence at the end of the day. Something happened in St. Kitts in 1935 at Buckley's Estate Yard, and something happened in Nevis in 1993, and I don't want anything like that to happen. I believe all the politicians, the opposition, and the present administration, both St. and Nevis, get together and sit down as gentlemen and do what they have to do. The Christian Council, reverends, canons, evangelists, please get up and do what you all have to do. The Chamber of Industry and Commerce, please get together and get this thing clarified. And I want to see St. Kitts and Nevis, my dear beloved Federation, by extension Nevis. I want to see my country go forward. I have a lot more to say, but thank you and check from that. The Christian Council,
Okay.
the Evangelist Association, please get together, get up off your laurels and do what you all have to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night, Mr. Webber, and good night to your guests.
Good
Good
night.
night to all of the listeners at home and abroad. Now I need a little clarification. What exactly was the Prime Minister referring to when he said that he was not going to allow anybody to diminish the what he used, right?
Yes.
Yes, the prerogatives.
His duties as the Prime Minister. What exactly was he referring to? And in terms of the reallocation of
Resources.
ministries,
Oh,
was
Yeah.
he say he was going to do it in accordance with the suggestions they made, or was he going to do it on his own?
He said that he was going to look at it and reorganize it. I think that's what he said.
Well, was he
Yes.
calling a bluff to see what they would do?
Well, I don't know. That is why I played all of them so that persons can hear it for themselves. I think, though, that in the proposals, my understanding is that there were certain proposals in reference to ministries, and I got the impression he was saying that whatever ministries were under the purview currently of the Prime Minister, he was not going to have them diminished.
Because I am still waiting. So I think this is what they asked him to clarify, right?
It's a little gray area for me. As I said, they were not specific, and it was left.
It sounds to me like they want him to explain what exactly did you mean.
Well, you
So
see,
you could call him bluff, eh? Because, I mean, look at the action in terms of the Nevis transfer. I mean, you call it a smart move, right? That was to neutralize Mr. Brantley. You don't think so?
well, maybe it was, but the question is, did it work?
Well, this is what I want to know. 'Cause maybe he just think a bluff to see what their reaction would be.
Well, let me ask you this, caller, because that is what we set out to do for tonight. What, in your view, would you suggest be done to solve, if anything, the issues?
Well, I would say they should have another meeting
good.
where these statements he made should be clarified, eh? Because, you know, I did not mean this, I didn't. So let him clarify what exactly did you mean? What effect is it going to have on us if we decide to go forward? So you know exactly where you're starting from. What are you willing?
Well,
There's got to be some compromise, eh?
okay, what has happened, I think, in what Mr. Brantley explained, that himself and Mr. Richards together has written to him, written a letter, maybe as you said, asking for that same clarification
Yeah, I believe so. I need a clarification.
and for an answer by tomorrow.
Yeah, because he could always say, I didn't mean that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because remember, people have advisors, you know, and strategists, as they call them, strategists. They just lead you right, they lead you wrong too, and lead you to destruction. Because I am sure he wants to remain until 2025 for sure. I am sure he does not want to have to give up his position now. So based on that, based on what he wants, we will have to negotiate along those lines. If you have to remain until 2025, as the Prime Minister, this is what we are asking. Now, what they ask must be reasonable to it. What they ask must be reasonable. But how I saw it, I said, it's like a bluff, it's a bluff. And maybe he expected the discussion to end there. But everybody have their strategies too. So while he may have thought he got away with it. And now, do you foresee to have any meeting tomorrow?
No, there's not a meeting tomorrow. My understanding, Mr. Brantley said that they wrote and he is to respond in writing. Because Mr. Richards seemed to have indicated the time for meeting is finished.
Well, time for meeting ain't really finished, you know. Ukraine and Russia fighting and the talking.
Yeah, but I told you, I was just saying what Mr. Richards said.
I know, but to Mr. Richards, and he knows that too, you know, politician. If you could be bombing and shelling my place, killing my people and things, and the conversation continues, what do you call that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
What do you call that?
Communication.
Negotiation. So I want the matter to be settled properly, eh? Because as I keep saying, nobody wins a war. Nobody wins a war, and standing and the Labour Party is waiting in the shadows to collect the spoil.
Exactly.
So that alone is an impetus for them to come to some kind of a reasonable conclusion. Because once that element get in, you have to root them out again. So they have to make up their mind, what do we want? And the Prime Minister has got to, you know, be careful the things he says. What effect? Because sometimes, well, you know, everybody got the writers, eh? You know that, right?
All right. Okay, Carla. That is why, as I said, we were interested in hearing what the ordinary citizens think.
I want,
yes.
I for one, I don't got no malice against anybody. All I am saying, you need to clarify what exactly do you mean? How are they intruding on your territory? Do they have any rights as members of cabinet and ministers, having given you the leadership? And even the one you read, I think the last one you read, according to Sean, in 2020 after the election, he could have been removed, according to what you read, you know.
Yes. And it says you can
he didn't have the full support.
Yeah, and you can be removed along the way. If you do not have the full support.
He didn't have a chance to look at the picture only alone. Everybody say, don't bother putting back up. But I say I give my word. So I mean, these things have to be taken into consideration. We want to have our people operating at a higher level. And the advisors sometimes is those who lead our people, our leaders astray. All right then.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that is why, again, as I said, we will be interested in hearing, and I'm sure the leaders are interested in hearing too what the ordinary citizens, you know, think and have to say, because I like to listen to my folks. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Oh yes, good evening to everybody there on the panel.
Yeah. Good evening.
I just thought of calling in to share my view. I know the Prime Minister has been doing a good job. We just need to focus a little more on Nevis according to his promises. But everybody is like talking him down as if he did something so drastic and evil. But he hasn't done that. If we consider, he has been the only Premier or Prime Minister who really gave Nevis his attention monetarily. And so we should not be ungrateful. Ungrateful is what's a witchcraft. And so all he needs to do is to pay us a little more attention and come step up on his promise. But for those who are calling us if he has done such a terrible job, I cannot sit down and let them go on thinking that way. So, and what was done to me should have been done behind closed doors. They negotiate properly rather than airing their grievances in the public. And so he has been doing a good job. He just needs a little more attention on Nevis and step up on his promises that he had promised. That's about all. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. This is Talk That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Liber. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Back to the lines. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. Thank you for holding. You're on the air. You'd want to turn your radio down and talk to me on the telephone, please.
I do not already.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, when I listen to the conversation, right, and hear people talking about Prime Minister Harris do a good job. What is a good job that Prime Minister Harris do? The things that they were fighting Denzel Douglas and the Labour Party for in 2013 and 14 and 15, where they commit to the people that they will do better. Up to today, they ain't even fix one, not even one of those things. So what good job Harris do? Build a road, build a bridge. That's the work of the government. The commitment to the people. Why they say that Labour was bad? Right? Telling a lot of life on Denzel Douglas and Labour. They ain't fix one of these problems. No constitutional reform, not the nature, not even one. So I know what good job Mr. Harris had do. The only way to fix this problem, Webbo, is to go back to the poll and let the people decide how we go, because this country belongs to Sean, Brantley, and Harris. It belongs to all of us. So all of us supposed to look at the same night. Because they can't get the problem fixed behind the door, that's why he come outside the door now. So the only solution to the problem is go back to the court.
Okay.
Yeah, blessed man.
Thank you. Have a good evening. 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. We thank you, the public, for making your points very clear, very respectful, and I'm sure that the leaders will appreciate it as well, because we're hearing some very interesting points, and after all, it's the people who we serve that are speaking. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening. Webbo, my little input is that, right? I don't think this is the time for all this rancor. I think the Premier and them should settle down, because Mr. Amwood just died. They went to the house this morning. They had all kind of nice things to say. When a man like Mr. Amwood that passed away, this is time. This would IFD, whatever you're going on with time. Wait till you done bury and settle down. Are you settle down, Mr. Brantley? Settle down and wait. It's bothering me. I don't like it. Just wait until when Mr. Andy finish, then you bury and settle down, and then I could go on with what you're going on with. But I don't like it, and it doesn't give me a good feeling inside. The Premier, settle down.
Okay, thank you very much. 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700 if you like to make an input.
The question is, what is the more realistic way forward? Stanley make a good point. Is politics lead to what? Strange bedfellows?
Politics make strange bedfellows. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Webbo. Yeah. To the last caller, let me kind of comfort you a little bit. You see, politicians got on platform and politicians, not them people. You got some people in the society, Webber, that if this politician said this, there is nobody else can convince them. That's the kind of confidence that they got in the politicians. Our politicians know that. Some of the politicians come out and they not talk the truth, but they know that they got this kind of followers. And they play to them. You get that? You understand what I'm saying about?
Right. Well, as I said, that's okay. Let everybody give their own view, you know, how they think
exactly
it should be settled. You give yours.
Yeah.
The caller give this, Stanley give this, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. One caller up early said that the Prime Minister not pay like great attention to movies. But the Prime Minister say up to today, up to this moment.
Yeah, but you work with me. You agree hello. Yeah, but they're giving their view, and you give yours, right? And so we will look at it that way. All right?
Yeah, you understand what I say, but what may say, you know, you need to tell them the way how government work. Because you see, you could just start this, and then government no work no way there now. You understand what I say? So
yes, I got you.
Then.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So we can't get 100 million opinion, and it just no work no way there at all. Okay then.
Okay. All right. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Okay, caller, please. Let's see. We have a little issue there. Caller, please call back. 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Again, like I said, we'll like to hear from everybody, hear what different folks have to say. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to your panelists here. I just want to chime in with some thoughts that I've been having over this whole situation. Because when I stop and I pause and I listen and I try to understand and wrap around my head everything that is going on, Sean, Mark, no disrespect, and Timothy, Prime Minister, Premier, and Deputy Prime Minister, they are, like they're doing, everybody's doing their own thing. So I can understand how some calls, because I would have heard a couple of callers saying that, you know, the Prime Minister needs to look after music a little better. I don't understand the word a little better, because the Premier himself would have said that it is the best thing the present Prime Minister took over in terms of support to music. Now, a couple of days ago, after the second meeting, I heard that Sean Richards said he's going back to Cork. A little later on in the week, Premier said he's giving the Prime Minister up until Wednesday. Did he discuss with Sean Richards as to Wednesday, or did they come together and say, well, we're going to do it on Wednesday? Because it's just for adventure that you find Sean doesn't get a favorable response.
No, but here are the facts, though. Yeah. What Mr. Brantley said was, together with the Deputy Prime Minister, they wrote to the Prime Minister, which means that the two of them were had knowledge of what the content of the letter.
Yeah, but he didn't get a definite time frame in terms of making a decision to resolve situation from Sean Richards. You get it that he's going back to Caucus, and then from Caucus they would make a decision. But the Honorable Brantley said Wednesday. But all that said, for my take on it, I don't think that you would have a resolve. Because it's bigger than between the three leaders. I don't know if you will agree with me, because I listened to another program on another radio station where one of our ambassadors would have been alluding to the fact that one of the ministers of the coalition party is, for the want of a better word, thou shalt not steal. So I don't see going back resolving there. I see, and this is my take, that you would have to have going back to the poll. I say let the people decide what is best for the country itself.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks much. You know, I think, Mr. Stanley, you know, it was very important that we put what each person said up at the top and the record, so that everybody, you know, especially if you're listening from the beginning, you'd have had a chance to hear what each person say. And I think as a consequence of that, it gives a person a better idea of what the facts are, and be able to make a better conclusion. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening. I'm calling from St. Martin, boy. Let me tell you something. All the time I'm talking about the money Mark Brantley talking about it. They say to get $588 million for the CBI money. Mark Brantley said he wanted $150 million to the 30% of what he supposed to get. So all Dr. Harris have to do, come to one conclusion and give me the money, give me the fair share, and the argument done. Because if every day arguing and talking about go back for 3 weeks or go back for 3 weeks, you'll come to more problems than what you can consider. Give me the fair share. Give me $150 million and the argument gone done. You see again, you can get some more CBI money and you give them the steal and the argument over. Everybody will go back to square one. So let's come to a conclusion tomorrow. Don't worry about no long talk and this, that, or decide how much you have to get and send the money and the thing over by Friday or Saturday.
Hello? Caller? Hello? Okay, the caller is gone. He said it's no long talk. In other words, let's do some thought, I will get results.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe tomorrow we'll get that. Thought that get results, and after that, you know, okay, maybe that's what you say. Okay, let me just, I think the caller is here. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
Yeah, Webbo, you know, I noticed everybody have their opinion. We just need to respect them.
That's true.
But you know what I noticed, the people who support the Labour Party. Let's put it this way: the people who support PLP, they forget that PLP is a part of a coalition. So as long as you could listen to them say, Dr. Harris is doing a good job. Yeah, Dr. Harris is doing a good job for them. But how about the other three parties in the coalition? How about Nevis? How about, well, you know, I mean, suppose Nevis had get the whole cake and Simkis getting a small change, like they're doing Nevis. What are how would they take that? You must treat people how you want to be treated. You know what I noticed? The people who support the Labour Party, they are in a gear right now. Fresh elections. Some of them say the country can't take another 3 years of this. And they need to go back to the polls. So the Labour Party supporters, if we could have an election right now, the gear they're in is we could have an election every day until the party get in. That is the gear they are in. That is the gear they are in. We have elected more than that, but years. And right now, we need to sit back and wait. Stop trying to figure out what they mean by this and what they mean by that. And we put Mark Brantley in charge of the Nevis end, Sean Richards in charge of the PAM end, and Timothy Harris in charge of the PLP end. And right now, they're locking negotiations. And let them work it out. Allow them to work it out. Because we are just staying here and going, who said this, who said that, and what I mean by this, what I mean by that. I do not think we need to go down that road. When Mark Brantley opened me out, I don't have to wonder what he said. When at the end of the meeting, the last meeting, Timothy Harris come out and say it was cordial and everything went well. By the time the second leader come out, everything didn't go well. And then they said that, I hear some of them say that, Mark Brantley didn't say nothing. That means Timothy Harris pay for keeping his mouth shut. And Mark Wakatrick and Mr. Richards. And then Friday night when Mark come out, we are able to see what it entails from the speech that he made. And I have a feeling he's serious. So let him go ahead.
All right, thank you. Nadia, you wanted to say something.
I was saying this is a rough terrain, Webbo. Yes, the politics of it is the politics of it. But also, I from what I deduced from what Mark was saying also, there's personal onslaught taking place from ministers to ministers. What's of concern to me, he also make the point of so much power and trust in the office of the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister speaks to the diminishing of the prerogatives of the Prime Minister. These are issues that are not really totally understood by the public. So the caller who said that pay the money and it will be over, it's not like that. It's a rough terrain, and a level of disrespect has been exchanged.
Yeah. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening. I think that they should go back to the poll and where the chip fall, let the people them talk and think, because I know there's going to be a lot of regrets in life. There's going to be a lot of regrets in life.
Okay.
As soon as you're out, you would like to get another chance to go back in the kitchen.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're finished?
Yes, I was saying that they should go back to the poll, let people them decide, and I know there's going to be a lot of regrets. Because Pam will never go back on the map. Because Pam win because of the team unity. They let it go back to the poll. It's also disgusting.
Okay.
So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Yes. To me, this is important, what the persons have to say. And the people in the society are the people who will vote and who voted. So it is important to hear what they have to say, and of course you, as the leaders or whatever, you fashion what you're doing from what people want.
It doesn't work that way,
it doesn't work that way. Okay. Maybe that's why it's not working. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. I think that whatever is the result of, some people call it negotiations, these seems like more like ultimatums to me. But whatever the result of it, the hard fact is there are government ministers who are calling the government dysfunctional. Right? It's not just a matter of personal stuff between ministers and cabinet. when the government is dysfunctional, it affects the whole country. And so this demands a resolution. We cannot operate for three more years until elections are due with a dysfunctional government. And so anybody who thinks that the status quo is workable or acceptable, I think they're deluding themselves. Okay, how it will work out is the question, right? I don't think they can continue anymore with this facade that they have team unity as such. Okay, that can't continue as is. Ministers themselves say it will not be business as usual. So it can continue as it was, and obviously it was not good for much of the 7 years, and I don't think the people in the country would consider, would accept the deception, because that's what it is, right? You're giving the impression that everything is hunky-dory when it is not. I don't think anybody in the country would believe that anymore if everything just seemed to subside and it seems as if they're back to whatever normal was. Okay? And so how do you get at the solution? That is the big question. And I think the issues in getting to the bottom of this, there are big issues, very big issues, that you have kept kicking down
caller,
yeah.
In the interest of time, you have asked the question rhetorically that we ask callers to address. So you have asked it, so what? You address it and then...
Okay, I am saying that to arrive at a solution, essentially, shouldn't we be looking at an expanded, shall we say, negotiation where we deal with issues of relations between St. Kitts and Nevis, the revenue sharing, constitutional reform, electoral reform, and those big issues, governance, because governance is at the root of this. If we had good governance, we would never have been in this situation. So that's what I'm seeking a resolution to it, and maybe other people like the chamber and civil society or whoever else need to step in and suggest that some mediation be done, because I don't see how three men who are at loggerheads with each other are going to solve this by themselves.
Okay.
Okay then.
All right, thank you very much. We got a couple of minutes left, so if you would like to weigh in, call on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Take a break and be back right after this.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back with our remaining minutes on Talk That Get Results. Conrad Nye Liber and Edric W. Stanley. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Edric?
Well, the framework is there. The roadmap is there. Accountability and responsibility. Transparency. The two leaders, Mark and Sean, is asking of the Prime Minister to give us good accountability.
Let me ask quickly, because we only got a few minutes
The
left.
framework is there.
Quickly of Naya and then yourself. Naya, you get the feeling that federal election is looming as a consequence?
No, I don't really.
Stanley, you get the feeling?
No.
Okay.
At the same time, like I said, this thing is getting to a crescendo, whereas those two leaders see things not going as good as they expected, and they're now trying to get the wagon back on rail.
The wagon back on rail.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you think that within them, those 9 seats, you think they can get something work out?
Sure, they
rather
could.
than
They could. The framework is there.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo.
You have a half a minute. Yeah.
I just want to give my input. Webbo, I think this unity, they're having a problem now. I think Sean and Mark, they probably had it up to the neck, but they're just going along it in a gentleman way, trying to do it right. But I don't think the Prime Minister is going to bend. The Prime Minister would have had whatever debate and talk. So time ain't mean nothing now. Time is just buying time. And I think something will happen. I don't see why they would, all who talking about fresh election is just those from the opposite side want a fresh election because they know votes will be scattered. But unity could work out this if the majority within themselves. Sometimes captaincy change along the way to win matches. And if they need the captain to be changed, you got to change the captain.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they got to go back to the poll.
So, put simply, your view is change the captain and win the match.
Change the captain and win the match.
Okay.
Because if you really listen to all of them say they're still for unity, so they're still with the team.
So, change the captain and win the match.
Change the captain and win the match. Complete the series.
I got you.
I heard Webbo.
Okay. Edric, change the captain and win the match?
Look, the framework is there. Accountability, transparency, respect, as the case might be. But the main thing is the power of the Prime Minister, which the other two leaders are eyeing.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for holding. You have a half a minute. You have a half a minute.
Two things. Is either a resolution or dissolution. You either pass a resolution tomorrow or dissolve the House. Let the people decide. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, whatever the resolution is, one would hope that it's surrounded by sufficient rules or whatever to make it sustainable, effective, and long-lasting. Whatever the resolution is, it simply cannot be based on another promise, I suppose.
Those people who are calling for fresh election are people who were in the wicket playing cricket. They got clean bowled, and they would like to reflect as to and get back in the wicket because they can make the adjustment and stay in the wicket. But it doesn't work that way.
What way does it work?
You have to be honest with the people and have a certain amount of accountability, transparency, respect, and you address all the problems. We just got to take a pragmatic approach to these problems, and ultimately they'll be fixed.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for holding. You have a half a minute.
Yes. Webbo, my answer from you now.
No.
General election.
Hello.
Yeah.
Put your question to the panel.
Oh, to the panel.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. But me want to hear from you in particular. You got federal election and you got one island election, one behind the other, just like that. How that go work out? Okay then.
Okay then.
Yeah.
That's the last word. Okay then. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On Demand. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Leaders Broadcasting Company.